Welcome to Bong Toi Trong Dem. At the foot of the mist-shrouded mountain, when the clock strikes 3:33, the forest yawns, and the voice from the chained coffin answers. The story begins there. Early morning, the whole valley lies wrapped in a heavy, milky fog, thick as cooking smoke, stubborn and unwilling to lift. The village nestles at the mountain's base, a handful of wooden houses with thatched roofs. Walls darkened by years of sun and rain. Wind slips through the gaps like a sorrowful wail. People in the village live quietly, rarely smiling. At night they bolt their doors, no one dares walk the roads. They believe that when darkness falls, the surrounding forest opens a gate for lingering restless spirits. Hong sits alone in a small house on the village edge. The window frame rattles with each gust. A guttering oil lamp throws a fickle light over her pale face. Her eyes are rimmed with dark circles. Exhausted from many sleepless nights, Hong whispers under her breath, "Dreaming again, Lamb, where are you?" Her hand trembles as she clutches the hem of her shirt. Lately, every night at exactly 3:33 in the morning, she jerks awake, heart pounding. In the dream, the figure of Lamb, her only younger brother, appears soaked. His eyes blank and rolling, his mouth repeating a plea for help. "Sister, save me, they've locked me in the dark." The dream is so vivid that Hong feels as if she is standing right in front of him. Then, suddenly, a blackened hand reaches out from the shadows, seizing Lamb and dragging him down into the abyss. Each time this happens, Hong is left gasping, cold sweat covering her. A dog's howl echoes from the far end of the village, long and eerie. Hong shudders and quickly shuts the window. There's a sound on the porch, the slow, scraping footsteps of someone on the damp earth. Hong holds her breath. A hoarse voice calls out, "Hong, open the door, it's me." She breathes easier when she realizes it's her husband. The door opens and Fong steps in. A tall man with an empty rattan pack slung over his shoulder. His clothes rumpled and speckled with leaves. The sharp scents of tobacco and resin follow him inside. Fong sets the pack down and sighs. "I spent all day looking and still no sign of him. Folks say he must have wandered into the forest. By heaven, it's been 3 days. What if something bad happened?" Tears brim in Hong's eyes. "I know. I saw him in my dream, being pulled away. It wasn't an ordinary dream." Fong frowns and glances at the corner where some old, yellowed talismans hang. He picks one up and murmurs, "People say that forest harbors something unclean. If Lamb went in there, he might have gotten tangled up with whatever it is." Hong shakes her head, voice choked. "I must go find him. Even if I die, I have to go." Fong looks at his wife, a mix of love and fear in his eyes. He speaks softly. "Last night I heard the blind old woman at the end of the village whispering through her shutter. She said, 'Whoever goes looking for him will be dragged along.'" "Hong, I'm scared." A heavy silence settles. Outside the fog thickens, clinging to the roof and creeping over the wooden walls like invisible hands. In the dark, a branch creaks, a sound like breaking bone. Hong presses both hands to her chest and breathes quickly. Then she opens her eyes and stares straight at Fong. "If you won't go, I will go alone. I can't abandon my brother there." Fong goes still, his knuckles white as they clench. He exhales and says in a strained voice, "All right, tomorrow morning we'll go into the forest together. But remember, bring the protective charms. No matter what, don't split up." A gust of wind blows through and the oil lamp suddenly goes out. The house is swallowed in dense darkness. In the night Hong hears a faint, cold whisper from somewhere. "It's so cold here." She bursts into tears, clutching her chest, her whole body trembling. Fong freezes, scanning the room, then fumbles for a small gleaming knife and grips it tight. The silence that follows is filled only by their racing hearts, a warning that the village, lost in the mist, has begun to open a door to death. The whispering stopped, and from beyond the wooden wall came a scraping, clawing sound like nails digging in. Hong trembled, clutching Fong's arm. "Do you hear that?" Fong ground his teeth, eyes strained as he peered toward the door. The knife in his hand shook slightly, but he forced his grip. "Stay put, I'll go check." He moved slowly, each step heavy. Hong held her breath and watched, her heart pounding. Suddenly the door flung open and a blast of cold wind rushed in, carrying the sharp, damp smell of earth. The woven curtain on the porch was whipped away, slapping against the wall. In the thick fog there was no figure in sight, only a broken dry branch that clattered onto the stoop. Fong exhaled sharply and muttered, "Damn spirits, must be the wind." Hong kept clutching her chest, eyes scanning as if expecting something to leap out. She whispered, "It's not the wind, I heard a voice calling." Fong said nothing, slammed the door shut and slammed the latch. He went back to the table and tied another talisman to a post. That night Hong couldn't sleep. She sat by the guttering oil lamp listening to insects chirp in the forest and the doleful howls of dogs. Every time a rooster crowed the watch, she startled, waiting for the moment of 3:33. And at that exact hour, as the clock's hand touched the number, the lamp suddenly guttered out. The house fell into pitch darkness. A chill closed in. In the dark, Lam's voice sounded right beside her, ragged and broken. "Sis, save me?" Hong gave a small scream, sweat breaking out over her whole body. She sprang up and fumbled for matches. The flame snapped to life, its small light revealing her ashen face. What drove Hong into panic, though, was the wet bare footprints on the damp floor, muddy, soft prints leading from the door to where she stood. Fong leapt up, eyes bloodshot, brandishing the knife and shouting, "Who's there? Show yourself." No answer came, only the wind shrieking through the wall gaps like a wicked laugh. Hong trembled. "See? He's back. He's calling me." Fong grabbed his wife's shoulders, voice low and harsh. "Enough. Tomorrow morning we go into the forest and find him. We can't wait any longer." Dawn barely broke, yet the fog stayed thick. The couple packed a rattan pack, knives, a bit of roasted rice and a bottle of water. Fong tucked more talismans into his shirt. As they stepped out the gate, a figure sat on the stone step by the road. It was the blind old woman from the village, her silver hair loose and tangled, her milky eyes vacant. She rasped a hoarse laugh. "Going to look for him? Are you? You won't be coming back. This forest has a curse that's been here 1,000 years. Whoever steps in will die." Hong shrank back. "Please, Aunt, Lam is my brother. I must find him. Even if I die, I'll go." The old woman tilted her head, her bony hand groping the air as if searching for something. She whispered, "He's not himself anymore. Last night I heard him cry, chained in a black coffin." "Be careful, child." Fong, impatient, tugged Hong's hand. "Come on, don't listen to scare stories. Let's go." They moved on in silence, leaving the old woman's cackling laugh behind, a sound as chilling as a daytime forest bird cry. The trail into the wood was damp, overgrown with weeds, the fog so dense the path seemed to vanish. Their footsteps rustled through dry leaves, joined by the drip of water from the branches. The deeper they went, the colder the air grew, as if thousands of invisible eyes watched them. Hong whispered, voice trembling, "I hear something, like someone following." Fong stopped and strained to listen. There was indeed a rustling behind them. He spun around, knife gleaming in his hand, but all that met him was the thick, white fog, no one there. He barked, "Keep moving, don't look back." Hong clung to his arm as they trudged on. A rising unease filled her, the feeling that every step carried them further into the forest's deadly snare. They pressed deeper into the forest. The further they went, the darker it became, the canopy overhead locking away the light. Above, black crows suddenly burst into flight, cawing wildly as if to foretell doom. The smell of damp soil and rotting leaves filled their noses, foul and sickly, like long dead flesh. Fong stopped and bent to pick up something. It was a ragged scrap of cloth, smeared with mud, still clinging to a green thread. He clicked his tongue softly. "This is his scarf, the one mine knitted. Lam definitely passed this way." Hong clutched the fabric tightly, tears streaming down her face. She whispered into the darkness as if her brother could hear, "Wait for me, I'll bring you home." Suddenly, from the thicket ahead came the crunch of footsteps. Both froze. Fong raised his knife, eyes narrowed. Through the fog loomed a wavering figure. It staggered, limping. From afar came a faint moan. "Sister, Sister Hong." Hong cried out in shock. "Lam, is that you?" She lurched forward, but Fong seized her arm. His voice urgent. "Wait, not yet." The figure drew closer, but its outline was warped. The face unclear. With each step, the ground beneath it bubbled with black water. When it came within a few paces, Hong saw it was indeed Lam, but his face was pale as death. His eyes rolled white, his mouth dribbling blood. Hong screamed, "My God, Lam, what's happened to you?" Lam trembled, his lips quivering. "Sister, save me, it locked me down in the pit." Before he could finish, his body convulsed violently, and from behind him a gnarled, blackened hand shot out, seizing his shoulder and yanking him into the choking fog. His scream tore through the forest, then cut off. Hong collapsed to the ground, shaking all over. Fong rushed to her side, stammering, "It's not real, just the spirit's trick, don't believe it." Yet on the wet soil lay clear muddy footprints, pressed deep, leading further into the forest. The two stared at each other, terror mirrored in their eyes. Around them, the wind moaned through the branches like grieving voices. The mist thickened, wrapping them tight. Hong choked back sobs, her tone fierce. "No matter what, I must keep going. He's calling me, waiting for me." Fong clenched his teeth, his face taut. He knew this path would drag them into the forest's deepest heart, a place from which few ever returned. A thunderclap rolled across the valley, shaking the earth. The crows erupted from the treetops, shrieking in chaos. The world turned gray and bleak, and somewhere in the suffocating fog, a whisper rose again, icy and low. "Come in, into the darkness." The couple stood frozen. At last their feet began to move, carrying them deeper into what the villagers had always called the cursed mist forest. The dry leaves whispered beneath their feet, mingling with heavy breaths. Fong led the way, knife held tight, eyes constantly scanning. Hong trailed after him, clutching the torn scrap of cloth as if it were the only thing left of Lam. "Honey, how far have we gone?" "Not yet halfway through the woods, but it's getting harder to pass." The fog wrapped around them. The sun above was blotted out so they could no longer tell day from dusk. Everything was a thick, suffocating gray. Hong hesitated. "I hear someone calling," a small voice, like a child crying. Fong squinted and strained to listen. Far off, a faint, intermittent sound drifted, close, then distant. His hair rose on end. He forced his voice low. "Don't pay it any mind. The forest spirits fake those sounds." Hong gripped her husband's shoulder. "But it sounds so much like Lam." Those words froze them both. Suddenly, from the branches overhead, something heavy fell with a thud right in front of them. They both jumped and cried out. It was a forest bird, black-feathered. Its neck snapped, eyes staring wide. Blood still dripped from its beak, bright red on the dry leaves. Fong stepped back one pace, lips pressed tight. "Someone's mocking us." He hurriedly pulled a talisman from his shirt, fastened it to a nearby branch, and murmured a prayer. Hong's hands shook so badly her voice broke. "I'm so scared. Maybe we should turn back." Fong turned to her, his face hollow but his gaze steely. "Turn back and leave my brother?" "No, keep going." They forced themselves onward. The forest path grew narrow, the trees intertwined into a green wall. Roots jutted up like giant hands, winding around their feet. After a while, Hong suddenly cried out, "Look, over there!" Before them lay a neat circle of stones, covered in green moss. Dark brown streaks stained the rock, crusted like old blood. Inside the circle a swarm of flies buzzed thick and noisy. Hong covered her mouth, eyes wide. "My God, human blood?" Fong crouched and scraped the surface with his knife. The sticky substance rose with a rank metallic stench. He swallowed hard, sweat beading down his back. "This looks like some kind of ritual. This isn't normal." Hong stepped back, trembling as she scanned their surroundings. In the sudden absolute silence, whispers rose from every direction. Dozens of voices hissing. "Come in, the blood is still missing." Fong lifted his knife and shouted, "Get out of here." Instantly the whispers vanished. leaving only the wind moaning through the canopy. But the air turned thick and heavy, pressing on their chests until they felt breathless. Hong clutched at her chest, speaking in ragged gasps. "I can't breathe. It feels like someone's hands around my throat." Fong gripped his wife's hand and pulled her along. "We have to leave this place. Staying here is dangerous." The couple staggered away from the stone circle, their steps heavy. Around them the mist pressed in, silence so deep it was suffocating. Only the faint rasp of insects and the sharp gusts of cold wind at their napes broke the stillness. Fong kept glancing about as he walked. Suddenly he froze. "Hong, look there." At the roots of a gnarled old tree lay an object. Hong bent down, her chest tightening. A heavy iron axe. Its wooden handle split, its blade rusted. What made her shudder was the dark. Dried stains of blood still crusted on the edge. Hong broke into sobs, trembling as she picked it up. This is Lam's axe. He always carried it when he went to cut wood." "Oh God, my brother." Fong gripped her shoulders, his voice hoarse. "Maybe something bad happened to him. But look closely, the handle's broken. He must have fought back against someone." Hong stared blankly, tears streaming. In her mind her brother's dream voice echoed again. Sister. Save me. Suddenly the forest wind died. Silence fell, heavy as stone. Then, from deep within the fog, came a broken whisper, repeating over and over. Go deeper, go deeper." Hong's whole body shook, her eyes wide. "You hear that? That's his voice. I have to go on." Fong scowled, his voice sharp. "No, don't believe it. The forest spirits are luring us." But the voice grew clearer, sometimes right by her ear, sometimes ahead in the mist. The eerie cadence tightened around her chest. She cried out, "Lamb, where are you? I'm coming." She lurched forward. Fong panicked, grabbing her arm. "Don't, it's too dangerous." Hong thrashed, tears blinding her. "Let me go. He's waiting for me." In the struggle, the ground beneath Fong suddenly gave way. His foot plunged into a pit of black muck that sucked tight around him. He cursed, struggling, but the more he fought the tighter it gripped. Fong shouted, "Hong, pull me up." Terrified, she seized his arm and pulled with all her strength. The mud gurgled and stank, the stench of rot clawing at their throats. In an instant, a blackened hand shot up from the mire, its long nails clamping onto Fong's leg. Hong screamed, yanking desperately. "God, help us." Fong slashed wildly with his knife. The blade glanced across the thing and the hand recoiled, vanishing. The pit snapped shut, releasing him. Both fell hard to the ground, gasping, their hearts pounding. Fong's face was ashen, sweat pouring. His voice trembled. "You see, the spirits tried to drag me under. And you still don't wake up." Hong. But Hong clutched the axe tightly, her eyes blazing with despair. "Even if it's spirits or demons, I have to find him. I can't abandon my brother." Fong said nothing, shoulders sagging. He knew his wife would not stop, and the path ahead would be more terrifying still. The couple trudged on, each step heavy as if pressing into thick darkness. The forest path narrowed until only one person could pass. Tall weeds closed in on both sides, and the mist clung cold against their skin like pinpricks. The whispering voice still drifted around them, but now it braided with the rustle of leaves and the low moan of the wind, blurring the line between what was real and what was imagined. Fong squeezed the knife in his hand and said in a strained voice, "Hong, if anything goes wrong, hold my hand tight. Don't let go." Hong nodded, though her eyes were fixed ahead where the fog thinned to reveal a round, cleared patch of ground, as if someone had swept it clean. In the center of that empty circle yawned a deep pit. Scattered stones lay about, the soil freshly turned and still damp, the sharp, fetid smell stabbing their nostrils. Hong clutched her chest and slowed. She stammered, "Fong, look at that." Fong stepped closer, eyes wide. In the bottom of the pit sat a gray wooden coffin, bound tightly with rusted chains. Some chain links had been torn open, hanging loose as if something had forced them. The stench of death rose thick. Flies swarmed black and noisy. The smell was so vile it made both their stomachs churn. Hong trembled and gripped her husband's hand. Could it be in there? Fong ground his teeth and looked around. We'll only know if we open it. Hong screamed, tears streaming. No, I'm terrified. I heard him in my dreams say he was locked up. He's in there. Fong drew a long breath, sweat soaked his back. His hand shook as he pulled the knife and began to pry at the chains. The metal creaked and scraped, a sound that made the skin crawl. After several pries, a link snapped and the chains clattered to the ground. They stood frozen. Inside the coffin lay a familiar body, Lamb. A black rope was tightly wound around his neck, cutting into his skin and leaving a purple groove. His eyes stared blankly at the space above, vacant and lifeless. Hong collapsed at the edge of the pit, sobbing. Lamb, oh God, how did this happen to you? Fong held his wife, but he too was white as a sheet. His teeth clenched. Hong bent down and saw that her brother still clenched a scrap of cloth in his hand. She carefully pried it loose. It was a tattered knitted piece stained with dried blood. At the faded pattern she recognized it instantly. This is my scarf. He said she knitted it for him. Why is it here? Hong looked up, face drained of color. Then, from Lamb's mouth, a trickle of fresh, dark blood suddenly seeped out, plinking down into the coffin. The wind in the trees screamed, cold and grief-stricken like a human wail. Fong gripped his wife tightly, voice trembling. Get away from here now. If we stay, we'll both die. But Hong only wept, holding her brother's cold hand as if trying to keep the last warmth. Dense darkness fell around the pit, swallowing her sobs and the woman's despair. After the night they found Lamb's body in the coffin. The entire village was shaken. The news spread like wildfire. Some mourned, others whispered, the forest spirits took his soul. Police from the nearest town arrived. Flashlights swept through Lamb's wooden house. Hong wept quietly in a corner, her face buried in her hands, while Fong paced uneasily, gripping his knife as if someone might strike at any moment. One young officer opened a chest pushed against the wall. Inside were woodworking tools and unfinished carvings, but hidden at the bottom, wrapped in a cloth bag, they pulled out a small notebook, its cover yellowed and smudged with candle soot. The officer flipped through a few pages, frowning. Every page was scrawled in Lamb's rough handwriting. One line stood out, written in red ink, pressed so hard it embossed the paper. Mai is not an ordinary person. She is tied to strangers in the forest. Last night I saw them set up an altar beneath the ancient tree. They spoke of trading for wealth and power. I'm terrified, but I dare not say a word. Hong shivered, stammering, Oh God, Lamb, why didn't you tell me? Fong snatched the notebook and read on, his voice thick and hoarse. If I disappear, it means they silenced me. The last person to see me will be Mai. The air in the room turned suffocating. Every eye turned toward Mai. She stood in the corner, her face expressionless, no tears, no trembling, just lips pressed tight. An older officer spoke sternly. Mai, do you have anything to confess? Mai shook her head, eyes dry. I don't know. He was just rambling. But at that moment, another officer entered from the yard, holding a pair of canvas shoes, caked with red mud and streaks of dried blood. He said flatly, Found these near the site of the coffin pit. Hong collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. My God, those are his shoes. Mai stiffened, her cold mask crumbling into terror. Her face drained of color. And she stammered, her voice breaking. I didn't mean to, they forced me. I only wanted a better life. Her cry burst out raw and desperate. But to everyone else, her words sounded like a cold blade of betrayal. That night, Hong prepared a ritual to release her brother's soul at the ancient village shrine. The flickering candlelight lit her hollowed face. Temple bells tolled through the thick mist. Incense smoke curled upward, shaping into a faint figure. A whisper floated in the air, soft yet choked with sorrow. Sister, I'm leaving now. Hong broke down, collapsing to the floor, hands trembling in prayer. A black butterfly appeared, fluttered onto the altar, beat its wings gently, then vanished into the fog. Fong laid a hand on his wife's shoulder. his voice unsteady. "It's over, he's at peace now." Hong gazed into the suffocating night. Her heart, though shattered, felt slightly eased. Her brother was freed from the cruel darkness. Yet deep inside lingered a quiet dread for the curse of the forest. She feared had not ended. After the ritual to release Lamb's soul, the village seemed to return to peace. People shut their doors earlier, the dim glow of oil lamps flickering in each wooden house as if to drive away lingering ghosts. But Hong could not sleep. Every night she woke at exactly 3:33. Again came the soft knocking at the door, the footsteps circling the house, and the chilling whisper at her ear. "It's not over, it's not over." She trembled beneath her blanket, eyes wide, staring into the suffocating dark of the small room. One day she told Fong, "Lately I keep seeing someone lurking in the yard. I'm so scared, maybe it's Lamb, coming back to warn us." Fong snapped, though worry edged his voice. "Stop thinking like that. His soul has been freed. If there's anyone out there, it's those forest people. I've suspected them all along." Hong blinked, whispering, "The forest people? Who are they?" Fong lowered his voice, glancing at the window as if someone might be listening. "Folks say a hidden group lives in the woods. They know dark rites. They take people for their rituals. The blind old woman told me they're descendants of the old shamans. Driven out long ago, holding grudges. Maybe they dragged Lamb into that pit." Hong shivered. Her brother's diary words echoed in her mind. Asterisk, Mai is tied to the people in the forest. That night, she couldn't close her eyes. The wind outside moaned like endless weeping. She whispered to the unseen air, "Lamb, if you're still here, give me a sign." The moment the words left her lips, the oil lamp sputtered out. Darkness smothered the room. She heard shuffling footsteps in the corner, smelled damp earth and the stench of blood. Then a hoarse, broken voice, rising as if from underground. "Beware, Mai!" Hong screamed, clutching her head, curling beneath the blanket. Fong leapt up and lit the lamp again. But when its faint light filled the room, everything was silent, still. He muttered grimly, "See? It won't leave us alone. But maybe it's people, not spirits. Either way, we have to find out." Hong gasped for breath, her chest tight. The name Mai from that shadowed voice stabbed her like a knife. The police had not yet left the village. They stayed a few more days, calming the people and investigating Mai and the diary's claims. One morning, the young officer returned to Hong's house. He placed a file on the table, voice low. "We found more. Near the pit where the coffin was buried, there were strange footprints, women's shoes, larger than Mai's. It seems someone else was with her." Hong's face drained of color. "Dear God, so it wasn't just her." Fong cut in, his tone heavy. "I told you, it's a whole group in the forest. Maybe they're still out there now." The officer nodded and cautioned, "Be careful. At night, bolt the doors. If you hear anything strange, don't go out. We'll keep searching." After he left, silence settled again. Hong sat by the window, staring at the blanket of fog over the yard. For a moment she saw the figure of a woman at the fence, tall, thin, with long hair hanging loose, holding a tattered scarf. Hong jumped up, heart pounding. Who's there?" Fong rushed out, but found only swirling mist. "No one." He frowned. "You're imagining things again." Hong shook her head, trembling. "No, I saw it clearly. Mai's scarf, the same one Lamb was holding." Fong gripped her shoulders, forcing her to sit. "Calm down. The more you panic, the easier they'll trick you. Remember what I said, stay strong." But that night, the terror deepened. At exactly 3:33, pounding at the door thundered. Thud, thud, thud. No longer soft, but heavy, urgent. Hong clung to her husband, tears streaming. "Don't open it, please don't open it." Fong gripped his knife and shouted at the door. "Who's out there? Show yourself." Silence, only the icy wind seeping through the cracks. Then a woman's voice drifted in, jagged, broken. "Give back the blood?" Hong froze, body numb, whispering like in a trance. "Lamb, is that you?" The voice cut her off, chilling. "Not me?" Fong's face turned pale. He clutched his wife tightly. They sat paralyzed, listening to footsteps slosh away into the fog. That night, neither closed their eyes again. Hong was certain of one thing. Something still lurked in the shadows. And it was watching the village. The village sank deeper into fear. No one dared step outside after sunset. The elders whispered. Asterisk. The forest has awakened with demons, this time. Peace won't return. Mai was kept under guard in Lam's old house. By day she sat curled up, silent, her eyes vacant, but at night, people heard her muttering to herself in the dark. One evening, Hong slipped inside. Though bitterness burned in her, she still longed to hear the truth. She called softly, Mai, what did you gain from this? Why did you hurt Lam? Mai lifted her head, eyes bloodshot. Her voice was hoarse, distorted, like it belonged to someone else. It wasn't me, they forced me. I only wanted a better life. I never thought. Hong trembled, her voice breaking. They? Who are they? Mai burst into shrill laughter, echoing through the dark room. The forest people, descendants of the old shamans. They promised wealth, promised freedom from misery, but in return, there had to be blood. Hong clutched her head, her heart pounding. She sobbed, My God, so Lam died for their ritual? Mai bit her lip, shaking violently. They dug the pit, made me watch. I saw them bind Lam, heard him scream for help, but I was too afraid. I stayed silent. That night, they locked him alive inside the coffin. Her sobs broke into gasps. Since then I haven't slept. His soul follows me, staring at me. Suddenly wind roared through the wall cracks. The oil lamp flickered, and Mai's shadow stretched across the wooden wall. For an instant it twisted into the shape of a gaunt man. Eyes rolled white. Mai screamed, clutching her face. Lam, let me go. I beg you. Hong froze, pressing herself into the corner. In her head a monstrous whisper stretched long and chilling. The blood is not enough. Mai's shrieks drowned everything. She collapsed to the floor, convulsing. Her eyes rolled back, her mouth rasping in broken tones. They are still in the forest, it's not over? Police and villagers rushed in at the sound. They held Mai down, but her body went limp, her eyes empty, her breath faint. Hong sank to her knees, tears pouring. She knew what she had heard was no delirium. It was truth. Outside, the misty forest loomed silent. Yet within that silence, something stirred, a dreadful secret still untouched. Ever since the night Mai collapsed, Hong had grown gaunt from sleepless nights. In her dreams she saw Lam again and again, standing beneath the ancient tree, his eyes clouded white, his hand reaching out as if to drag her with him. The voice echoed, ragged, suffocating, Sister, come into the forest, save me? Hong jolted awake, sweat soaking her back. Beside her, Fong snored lightly, but his hand still gripped the knife laid next to his pillow. She shook him gently, whispering through trembling lips, Fong, I can't take it anymore. Every night he calls me. I'm afraid if we don't go, his soul will never rest. Fong rubbed his eyes, irritated. Another dream? You think there's anything in that forest but devils? Hong's eyes filled with tears. But he's my brother. How can I abandon him? Fong sat in silence, staring toward the window. Outside, the fog hung thick, as if it would never lift. At last he sighed. Mai already confessed, but there are still others we haven't seen. If we want the truth, we'll have to go into the forest. Hong's heart sank. She gripped his hand tightly, whispering, I'm terrified, but if you go, I'll go too. The next day they packed dried rations, flashlights, and the old talismans Fong always carried. At dusk, they slipped quietly along the narrow trail into the woods. Night fell, and the forest was black as ink. Insects rasped, owls hooted mournfully, branches brushed their faces, damp and cold. Fong led with his knife, each step tense. Hong followed, her palms slick with sweat. Suddenly she froze. Through the thick mist, a figure stood beneath a tree. Tall, gaunt, clothed in rags, hair hanging over its face. Hong's heart lurched. She clutched Fong's shoulder. Look, do you see it? Someone's there. Fong narrowed his eyes, sweeping the flashlight, but the beam cut only through bare branches. No one stood there. He muttered. Forest spirits playing tricks. Keep moving. They pressed on for several hundred meters. From the thicket ahead came a low murmur. Like chanting. Listening closely. The words belonged to no language of their people, strange. Alien syllables that chilled the blood. Hong trembled and whispered, "There really are people in the forest." Fong's jaw tightened. Just as I thought. This time, we'll see them with our own eyes. They pressed against the trunk of a great tree. Peering ahead, flickering firelight cast shifting shadows, dark figures moving in the mist. Hong held her breath, her heart hammering. She knew they were about to face a terrible truth. The fire from the torches flared, casting jagged light across distorted faces hidden beneath black hoods. 7 or 8 figures stood in a circle around a great stone slab. Its surface stained with dried blood. The chanting droned on, low and suffocating, like the voices of the dead echoing from their graves. Hong gripped her husband's hand, her lips trembling. "Dear God, it's true, they're practicing dark rituals." Fong's knuckles whitened on his knife, his eyes flashing with rage. He leaned close to her ear, whispering, "Stay quiet, listen closely. We need to know what they're doing." One of the hooded figures stepped into the center. In his hands was a wooden bowl, glistening with thick, red liquid. Firelight revealed it clearly, blood. He poured it over the stone, chanting in a guttural voice, "This blood, we offer to the keeper of the forest. Grant us wealth, grant us power." The others bowed low, pounding the ground in rhythm. The dry thudding, mixed with the stench of blood, made Hong gag. She covered her mouth, tears blurring her eyes. In her heart, Lamb's broken whisper rose again. "They locked me in the dark?" Her throat tightened, she nearly sobbed aloud. Fong raised a hand quickly, shaking his head to warn her. At that moment, from among the hooded figures, a familiar shape stepped forward. Small frame, long hair hanging loose, it was Mai. Hong felt a blade drive straight through her chest. She gasped, breathless. "My God, it's her." Mai knelt before the stone, hands trembling as she lifted a ragged scrap of fabric, soaked in blood. Hong recognized it instantly, the scarf her sister had once knitted for Lamb. Mai's voice cracked, breaking into the night. "Accept this offering, open the path for me." The hooded figures let out a long, guttural howl. The sound rose shrill and ghastly, shattering the stillness of the forest. Birds exploded from the canopy, wings thrashing, branches shrieking like a storm. Hong clung to Fong, tears streaming. How could she? She killed Lamb with her own hands. Fong's teeth ground together, jaw tight. He tensed to leap out, then forced himself still. To reveal themselves now would be suicide. His whisper was harsh, ragged. "Not yet, we have to see what they bury, what they're hiding." Through the wavering light, the hooded group began to dig a pit. Dirt flew, shovels striking stone with a harsh, metallic clang. Hong stared wide-eyed, dread rising in her chest. Whatever they unearthed in that pit, she knew it could be more horrifying than Lamb's death itself. The ground was ripped open, damp layers of earth flung aside to reveal a black, bottomless pit beneath the ancient tree. Hong held her breath, her heart hammering. One of the hooded figures climbed down and fumbled, hauling up an old wooden coffin, crusted with moss. A rank, nauseating stench poured from the box, making Hong clamp her hand over her mouth, eyes streaming with tears. Inside her chest a voice screamed, "Don't open it, don't." But they set the coffin on the stone slab anyway. Shaky hands unfastened each rusted link. The metal screeched, a sound that seemed like the wails of trapped souls. The lid snapped back. Inside curled a body, a black rope cut deep into its neck. The eyes stared wide and blank, white and lifeless. Fresh blood still trickled from the mouth. It was Lamb. Hong gasped and trembled all over. She wanted to rush forward and clutch her brother, but her legs felt nailed to the ground. The chanting renewed, faster, fouler. Mai sank to her knees, hands pressed together, tears pouring down her face. "Forgive me, let me live in peace and riches." A cold wind swept through, making the torch flames gutter. Leaves overhead rasped as if 1,000 laughing ghosts were in the branches. Then Lamb's eyes moved, Blood oozed from the corner of his mouth, plinking onto the stone below. A soft moan escaped him. "Sis, save me, it's so cold," Hong screamed, unable to hold it in. "My God, Lam!" The shout made the hooded circle spin around. Eyes flashed beneath their cowls. Fong yanked Hong's hand. "Run, run now?" They turned and fled. Branches lashed their faces. Mist closed around them. Behind them rose a cacophony of howls and chanting, like a hunting pack in the dark. Hong panted and sobbed as she ran. "He's still alive," he called my name. Fong gritted his teeth and pulled her faster. Fear unlike anything he'd known filled him, not just of people, but of the evil dwelling now in Lam's body. Boots thundered in pursuit. The ritual voices echoed from all sides within the dark forest. They realized, with a cold finality, that from that night on they had been dragged into a deadly spiral with no easy escape. Dash dash dash. The couple ran until the forest edge, collapsing when their legs gave out and their breaths came in ragged gasps. Dawn was gray. The village lay silent, like the dead. Fong sank onto the grass, drenched in sweat. "We're lucky, we almost died in their hands." Hong slumped beside him, tears streaming. "I saw him move," he called me. "He can't be truly dead." Fong barked, voice hoarse. "Stop fooling yourself. He's dead. That's a demon wearing his skin." Hong choked and sobbed like a child. The pain tore her open. They limped to the village gate but were met by people gathered there. Faces strange and interrogating. An old man, leaning on a cane, scowled. "Where were you two at night?" The forest cried out like a woman. "Did you bring this on us?" Fong bristled. "We went to find my brother. We didn't hurt anyone." A woman pushed forward, trembling and pointing. "I dreamed a demon stood at his house, then terrible winds came." "Didn't you invite this?" Murmurs spread. Suspicion thickened the air. Neighbors turned away. Doors slammed shut. Dogs in the yards howled long and hollow. Fong pulled Hong inside and bolted the door. He lit a lamp and flopped down, muttering, "This village isn't normal anymore. I think they've got people inside." Hong sat stunned, her mind echoing Lam's coffin whisper. "Sis, save me?" Outside, the wind and mist moaned, doors creaked. Roosters crowed off-key. The village felt watched by 100 invisible eyes. That night, Hong tossed and turned. At 3:30 in the morning she heard tapping against the floorboards, tap, tap. Each knock closer than the last. She shivered and sat up. The old mirror in the corner fogged with breath, forming the shape of a figure. White eyes stared back, lips moving. "It's me. I'm so cold." Hong froze in terror. She knew, in a way that left no refuge. The darkness had followed them back to the village. There was nowhere left to hide. Ever since that night, Hong couldn't sleep a wink. The pounding under the floor, the figure in the mirror, and above all Lam's eyes haunting her left her exhausted with fear. Fong lay beside her, eyes closed but his hand still white-knuckled around the knife. He knew the house was no longer safe, but he kept quiet so as not to make his wife more anxious. Before dawn, Hong bolted upright, trembling. "I can't take it anymore. He keeps calling me. Fong, if we don't go, I think I'll lose my mind." Fong pushed himself up on one elbow, eyes bloodshot. "You think we'll go into that forest and just come out okay? They're many, and there's that demon besides." Hong gripped his hand so hard it hurt, voice breaking. "But I'm his sister. I couldn't live with myself if I left him. Please, take me into the forest again." Fong was silent, his expression hardening. He knew she was right. This couldn't be avoided. At last he spoke, voice low and determined. "Fine, but this time we won't just wander. We'll bring more oil, more charms, and fire. Fire is the only thing that drives that thing back." That morning the two of them packed quietly, a bottle of kerosene, dry torches, coarse salt, and the old talismans Fong always kept. As the sun slipped behind the ridge, the whole village shut its doors. No one dared show themselves. Hong and Fong slipped out and followed the old trail into the trees. The deeper they went, the thicker the fog. Branches drooped like gaunt arms, swaying with every shriek of wind. The smell of damp earth and rot grew pungent. Fong led, knife at the ready. Hong followed close behind, palms cold with sweat. Suddenly, a whisper rose from the bushes. "Sister, I'm here, save me." Hong's legs turned to water, and she stammered, "Hear that, Fong? He's calling me." Fong ground his teeth and tugged her hand. "Keep calm. The demon knows you're soft, it'll try to lure you." They pressed on. Not long after, flames flickered ahead. The chanting began again, the same eerie, hypnotic rhythm. Hong shivered and felt her feet root to the ground. In the clearing before them, the hooded circle had formed once more. The figures held torches, bright eyes glinted behind their black veils. In the center, Mai knelt, hair loose and hanging. The wooden coffin lay on the stone slab again. Hong shook, tears spilling down her face. "Oh God, my brother." Fong tightened his grip on the knife, fury flashing in his eyes. Through his clenched teeth he whispered, "This time, I'll drag them into the light." The hooded circle pressed close, chanting in a fevered rhythm. The dry thuds on the earth and long howls rolled through the forest. Hong could see the wooden coffin on the stone slab. Rusted chains still looped around it. From inside came a faint tapping, as if someone were knocking on the lid. Hong's heart felt as if it would burst. She whispered through tears, "Lamb, he's still in there." Fong ground his teeth, dipped a torch in oil and struck a flame. The torch flared bright in the mist. He stepped out from behind the tree, voice a low roar, "Are you even human? You murder people and summon demons. Tonight I'll burn you all." The circle broke into chaos, eyes flashing toward Fong. One of them lunged with a cleaver, but Fong swept the torch and the man's robe caught fire. Roaring up, screams tore through the clearing as the group scrambled. Mai looked up, pale, her eyes wide and wild. Hong ran forward and fell to her knees at the coffin, weeping, "Lamb, it's me, I'll free you." Her hands shook as she worked the last rusted links free. But at that moment a hoarse voice came from just behind her. "Don't open it, it's not human anymore." Hong spun. An old hooded man had stepped close. Clutching a blood-stained charm, he grinned with a sickening leer. "It's a sacrifice. If you open it, this whole village will die." Fong lunged, slashing the old man's hand aside, and shouted, "Hong, run!" The others surged forward at once, cleavers, clubs, flailing in the torchlight that made their faces grotesque. Hong clung to the coffin and gave one final heave. The lid flew open. A blast of icy air rushed out and snuffed the torch in her hand. In the choking dark, white eyes stared up. From the throat came a strangled groan. "Sis, save me?" The cultists howled in a mix of terror and frenzy. The fog thickened, wrapping around every body. Chanting dissolved into chaotic screams that pealed through the trees. Fong shoved a blocker aside and grabbed his wife's hand, shouting over the tumult, "Run, don't look back." They fled through fire, smoke, and the cacophony of the sorcerer's cries. Behind them the coffin burst fully open, the sound like claws tearing at the earth. They knew the final confrontation had begun, and if they lost, no one would ever come back. At first light the village was in an uproar. Old and young pressed into the communal yard, faces drained of color. During the night many houses had heard howls, the pounding of doors, and some households even saw figures crossing their yards without leaving any footprints. Fong supported Hong back home, clothes torn, eyes bloodshot. She still gripped his trembling hand, muttering, "It called me, it's still calling." A report was sent to the district. That afternoon a police vehicle arrived at the village. 4 or 5 officers got out, some carrying guns, others flashlights. They convened at the communal house to take statements. An old man from the village stammered. They held a ritual in the forest. Dozens of them, faces covered with hoods. And, the wooden coffin, when they opened it, there was a terrible sound. The officers exchanged looks, half believing, half skeptical. One spoke bluntly, "All right, tonight we'll go into the forest and check it out. Everyone stay inside, no one is to go out." Fong stood up, his voice hoarse. "It's not simple. I saw it with my own eyes. They're not human anymore. They worship demons. If you underestimate them, the whole village could die." The chief officer frowned. "Don't sound so dramatic. Demons or no demons, it's just a cult. But to be safe, we'll bring gasoline and burn the place clean." That night the village put out its lamps early. Dogs howled long and low. Wind rattled the thatched roofs. People bolted their doors, wedged extra planks, and prayed. Hong sat hugging her knees in a corner. Eyes unfocused, she whispered in a childlike voice. "I saw it. In the mirror, it called me to come down with it." Fong sat beside her, his rough hand holding hers tight. He trembled slightly but tried to sound certain. "Ignore it. The police are going into the forest tonight. By morning it will be over. You have to believe me." No sooner had he spoken than a asterisk knock. Knock sounded from the yard, clear, measured, like fingers tapping on the door. Children's giggles floated through, high and teasing. "Open the door, I'm so cold." Hong screamed and lunged for the latch. Fong grabbed her, shouting, "That's not Lam, it's not human." The knocking turned into frantic banging. The door shook violently. Dust fell. Oil lamps trembled. Then, cutting through the tension, a volley of gunshots echoed from the forest. Shouts from the officers, savage screams, and a long, uncanny howl returned to the village. The crowd fell silent. Everyone understood, tonight, no one would sleep in peace. In the dark, the police flashlights swept across the tree trunks. Gunfire still cracked in bursts, shouts mixed with sharp, eerie howls echoed through the woods. A young officer stumbled out of the underbrush. His face drained of color. "They're not human, white eyes, don't feel pain." A scream rose. Then the sound of gasoline being poured and a sudden flare of fire that lit up a whole patch of forest. In the blaze, hooded figures danced around a deep pit, howling as they raised blood-stained talismans high. Fong gripped Hong's hand and dragged her along the trail, pressing them behind an old stand of bamboo. He whispered, voice shaking, "There, the pit, the coffin?" Just as he said, at the center of the ring of fire sat an old wooden coffin. The chains that bound it were broken, the lid was cracked open. From inside came heavy, frantic thumps, as if something alive was struggling. Hong's knees went weak, her eyes widened. She could clearly hear Lam's hoarse cry from within. "Sister, save me, they've locked me up." She wanted to rush forward, but Fong held her tight, teeth clenched. "It's not Lam anymore, don't be fooled." A squad of officers rushed in. They fired. Bullets tore through several hooded figures. Strangely, those figures rose again, blood gushing, but they did not fall. A guttural voice rolled up from the earth. "Open the coffin, for me." The cultists screamed and then all knelt, pounding their heads to the ground. Blood ran from their foreheads, staining the stone circle red. The flames surged higher, illuminating grotesque faces, mouths stretched wide, eyes milky white. The chief shouted, "Burn it, burn the coffin." A can of gasoline was thrown, and the flame caught. The coffin shook violently. But instead of burning, the fire died out as if swallowed. Black smoke shot up from the chest and twisted into the shape of a monstrous face, eyes glowing red, mouth opening with a shrill, hissing wind. Hong collapsed, her ears ringing. In that smoke she saw Lam's face, his neck bound, his eyes empty yet still wet with tears. His voice came weakly. "Sis, don't leave me." She broke down, falling to her knees. Fong grabbed her and howled over the gunfire. "If there's any way, we have to perform the rite to free him. Otherwise the whole village will die." A terrible howl echoed everywhere. The trees trembled as branches snapped like 1,000 hands slamming down. That night, the northwestern mountains turned into hell. Amid the chaos, the police were forced to fall back, their bullets spent, unable to bring down the hooded cultists. The coffin still rattled violently, belching thick black smoke. Suddenly, a piercing scream cut through. "Stop!" Mai stumbled forward, face pale, hair wild, clothes soaked in blood. She dropped to her knees beside the coffin. Trembling hands pressed to the lid. "Spare me, I've given the offering, let me have peace." The police chief pointed straight at her, roaring, "You murdered your husband and sealed his body in this box. And you dare call him an offering?" Mai broke down, sobbing. "I didn't want this, they forced me. I just wanted wealth, a way out of misery. I never thought it would kill a lamb." Through the crimson firelight her face blurred with tears. but the wind's howl drowned her voice. Black smoke surged upward, snaring Mai's body. She was dragged screaming into the pit, her wails fading in terror. Hong sprang to her feet, eyes red, and rushed into the circle of fire. Fong chased, trying to hold her back, but she cried out with resolve. If I don't release him, Lam will be trapped forever. Her hands shook as she pulled from her blouse the old scarf Lam once clutched. She laid it gently across the coffin lid, palms pressed together, whispering prayers. The wind stilled, a mournful sobbing echoed through the trees. From the smoke, Lam's frail form appeared, eyes brimming with tears. His lips moved. Sister, I'm leaving now. Hong's tears poured like rain. She screamed in despair. Go in peace, my brother. I'll never abandon you. Lam's shadow faded, dissolving into the haze. At that moment the coffin exploded, wood shattered, ash scattered, flames roared, then vanished. The hooded cultists collapsed, lifeless husks strewn across the ground. The earth trembled briefly, then fell silent. The forest sank into stillness. By dawn the police gathered evidence, chaining the surviving cultists. Mai was gone, leaving only a pair of worn sandals by the pit. The next day the villagers held a rite at the ancient shrine. Hong knelt before the altar, incense burning, smoke curled upward, forming the faint smile of a young man. A black butterfly landed on the incense, then drifted away into the mist. Fong gripped Hong's hand, whispering, "Let him rest now." Tears streamed down her face. She bowed her head. Go in peace, Lam. Mist draped once more across the valley. But in Hong's heart the weight had lifted. Darkness receded, leaving only the echo of a fading whisper in the mountain wind. Sister, I'm leaving now. The story closes, yet its shadow lingers. Greed had turned kin into traitors, love into tragedy, but it was family, blood ties, that redeemed the soul imprisoned. The dead found release, the living will carry the scars forever. And in the heavy fog of the mountains, who can say what secrets still lie hidden? If one night you walk the forests of the northwest and hear the wind whistling through the leaves, or a faint whisper in the mist, remember, perhaps a lost soul is still searching for the way home. Thank you for joining the Curse of the Mist Forest series on Darkness in the Night. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and stay tuned for more chilling tales. Wishing you a safe and peaceful night. Disclaimer: this story is purely fictional, created for entertainment. It does not depict real history or specific beliefs. Any resemblance to real people, places, or events is purely coincidental. This channel does not promote superstition in any form.